Julien was the best person that I've ever seen with social skills. Julien was always the guy who friends of mine would kind of come meet up with him, even when he was new, even as far back as when Julien was like, I think, when did we start hanging out, Julien? When you were like 20 or 21 or something like that?
Yeah, I just turned 21. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was this freaky thing where, I'd hang out with Julien, and then friends of mine were like, where did you find this guy? Like that was basically the reputation Julien had in my crew. It was like, where did you find this guy? He's like total prodigy. Julien just had that ability. Like we would go to the very, very best clubs in Hollywood, and Julien, not knowing any promoters, no bouncers, having nobody to go with, would get us in. He would get our friends in. He would get us into tables. He would always know the best after parties. He'd always invite the best people to the after parties. Like, we basically were hanging on his coattails, and he was showing us a lot of things. So, and then I would kind of catch up to where he's at, and then he'd blow past me, and we would just keep doing this. And him and I went out together in Hollywood for about half a decade, going totally crazy, and, kind of building our brotherhood doing that, and having insane adventures beyond your wildest dreams. And so Julien was always somebody who I looked up to in that sense. And I think the thing that you always had, Julien, that I really looked up to was that it seemed like what you were good at was focusing on what matters. I'm just going to give you a summary of how I felt watching you. It was like, a lot of people, I think, overthink things. Like, realistically, you know how to do a lot of things, but you overthink it. There's just too much noise in your mind. And I would always notice that, Julien would, for example, Julien would have a breakup. Like, I'd have a breakup, and I'd be pretty crushed. Some of you might remember an old video me and Julien did about breakups. Julien would have a breakup, and he would just move past it quickly. Not because he was cold-hearted, but literally just because he just realized it's part of life, and he'd move on. Or, he didn't really suffer from social anxiety because he had learned to work on that, and he basically just didn't waste his time on it. Julien's just very, very good on his time and knowing what the right thoughts are and the wrong thoughts are, or what are the things that are affected socially and what's not affected socially. So he was somebody who I learned so much from. It's funny because, Julien, you learned initially from me, right? You're like back in Switzerland watching my videos, and then you took what I had built and taught, and then you kind of ran with it and then went further with it, and then I was learning from you. And so the basic idea is that Julien would see that. But then what happened was, probably right around the exact same time that Julien had all that crazy stuff in the media anyway, one thing that he was already complaining about was that learning social skills from a position of trauma is like building a house on a faulty foundation. And so really what you're doing is you're building social skills on top of being traumatized. And the net of that is that most of your social skills wind up being based around what you could almost call distraction, right? It's like, how do you distract people from the fact that you're toxic internally, that you're wounded internally, and that you're putting out bad vibes, right? There's this whole idea of mirror neurons and how whatever you feel, the other person feels. And so if internally you don't feel good and you're trying to medicate trauma or run away from trauma or stuff trauma, hide from trauma, and then, you go to meet somebody and then they can feel that either, and here's kind of what it looks like, okay? Either A, you have all this trauma energy, in which case what happens is that they feel that off of you and they're repelled by you, or B, what you do, and I know if you're at home, you're probably doing this 1,000% because I did it for years. You're kind of saying some magic line to poke for a good response or to button push for a good response. Then you get validation, you get validated, which then medicates the negativity going on inside of yourself. And then if you can keep poking to get validated, you get into an upward momentum from that. And then you can do well. But then even that person who you might have met out at the club that night, you're going to be a different person when you meet them in the day because you're not bathing in validation, okay? You're not medicating yourself with validation. And so the challenge is that if you're, when you're teaching social skills who don't have that foundation, most of the social skills that you're going to be teaching are going to be based on this kind of distraction kind of thing, right? It's like you're I don't know, say that you're somebody who's like modeling on Instagram and there's something wrong with your body, and then you do all these different things to distract from it. Like, look up here, look down here, right? And so that becomes your social skills. It's not a healthy place to come from. So what winds up happening is that when you build that proper foundation, rather than your skills being based on distraction, if anything, your skill set becomes based on vulnerability. It becomes based on being the most you as humanly possible, right? And then we get these weird ideas of, they say, be yourself. Well, does be yourself really work when yourself is this wounded, damaged person? It can sometimes, for sure, right? Because you embrace it and don't resist it, and people can respect that. But at the end of the day, when people are always kind of looking for the bigger, better deal, and the true you is wounded and hurt, that's not going to come across well. So what happens is that when you build that foundation, the way that you socialize, or the way that you would go about meeting somebody or connecting to somebody or relating to somebody or attracting someone or bringing someone in your life becomes different. You know, as a simple example, I was just in Art Basel, which is this like huge sort of snooty celebration they do once a year in Miami. Like half the planet descends on Miami. And I was out every day and I was meeting a lot of new people. There's a lot of very wealthy people there who could become clients, a lot of very attractive people there I like to spend more time with, so on and so forth. And so what happened that I found over many years of doing this is that the less that I say, the better. Just holding frame and being grounded is better. If anything, if I put on too much of a song and dance, it's incongruent, but there's inner work that comes from that point. So what we'll be covering today is a lot of this idea of what does it mean to have a real foundation? What does it mean to be in abundance, not just externally, but to be an internal abundance, which then sort of manifests into your outside world? And then what kind of exact social skills would you bring into place knowing that you have that right foundation? Because that was sort of Julien's challenge, was him teaching social skills, then realizing that you're teaching social skills on a bad foundation, spending, ever since, probably about 7 years now, teaching how to build that foundation. But then from there saying, well, wait a minute, what are some of those incredible social skills? Like Julien bringing his best social insights that he's learned in, how long has it been since you were focused on social skills? Was that 2014 or 15? I guess 2015. It's been about 7 years since you had a major focus on it.
Yeah, since 2015, I've been diving deep into inner work, letting go, really working on that vibe, on that core, as you say. So yeah, it's been almost 7 years. Almost 7 years since I've released anything practical when it comes to social skills on the external side of things. It's really been diving deep because, as you mentioned, right, it's like over the years, I've been teaching since 2010. I'd have all these clients come through and their vibe was just off, right? And for you watching, I'm sure you get a feel of that. It's like, what is your vibe? That's the first question I would ask anyone. It's like, what's your vibe like? If you can't answer that, that's your sticking point. Otherwise, ask yourself, well, what do people feel when they're around me? Are you someone who's usually pretty stressed? Are you a downer? Are you pretty negative? Do you get angry a lot? What is that general aura that you put off? If you walk up to someone and you're like, hey, how's it going? Say it's even a stranger. You're like, hey, you know what? I want to meet that person. Hey, how's it going? Do they react well? Right? Now, of course, there could be some flukes and some situational stuff where, sure, they might be in a bad mood or in a rush, but say you talk to 10 people, 10 strangers, challenge for you, and you go out and say, hey, how's it going? Hey, how's it going? Hey, how's it going? How do they react? If it's terrible, then what does that signal? That your vibe is off. And you can go that route of just piling on all these tips and tricks and lines and distractions to try to get people's attention off of that vibe, but eventually, as cheesy as it sounds, the self is always shining through. People see it. You can delay it as much as you want, people see it. And it would really frustrate me because I'm like, okay, in the moment, you can get some seemingly good results, but in the long run, those results never stick. Why don't they stick, right? And that's where you really got to start diving deep and asking yourself, how do I work on this vibe directly? How do I actually change it so that I am in a good state, in a good mood? I don't have to do anything. I don't need reactions to get me there. I'm just there by default. What work goes into that? So that's really the past 7 years of my life, what I've been diving into. Okay, letting go. What about childhood trauma, where a lot of this originates? And then from there, once you have that solid foundation, that good vibe, right? This makes you a social natural, if you will. That's letting go. There's still some steps you can take externally on the more technical side, on the more, okay, well, how do I now make this relatable? How do I read people? How do I connect with people? And what are actually some of those really good and still golden pieces of advice from those more old school teachings? And this is really what high vibe communication is about. It's taking the best of the old school. A lot of that is outdated, okay? The inner work, once you have that solid foundation, that good vibe, it really disrupts that whole frame of mind, that whole paradigm. So letting go vibe when it comes to social skills, combined with the old stuff, the best of the best, combined with new stuff, and you have high vibe communication.
Yep. And by the way, guys, let us know how my audio is. I noticed there was a lot of complaints about my audio in there. So let me know in the comments if you're hearing it right. This is new for us. It's our first time doing it. The cool side of that is you're here for the first time doing it. Downside is the audio. So we may have to, I don't know if we have to start the broadcast over Julien if my audio has been, Ibrahim, you've got to let me know how
I think it's good now, but do let us know in the chat. This is our test drive of the live setup.
Terrible, this is not a releasable video, so we should let everybody know. Okay, so yes, guys, this is live, for better or worse. for better or worse, this is live, right? We have, I probably have about $100,000 in gear here, but we're still struggling to get the audio down. Sometimes you can overdo it.
Audio.
So sometimes there's something to be said for just using your freaking laptop. Anyway,
Right.
okay, but yeah, we're trying to get this down. Okay, good sign on the audio. Okay, so yes, this is live. Me and Julien, I'll tell you guys something. When we say we're live, we're really live because we enjoy going live because it makes us feel like we're at a seminar, and we both love teaching seminar live. So we kind of, when we go live, it gives those feelings and vibes of being at a live seminar. So that's why when we say we're live, we really are live. We'll kind of look away from. It says I'm echoing heavily, but yeah, so a lot of complaints on the audio. But basically, what you have is like. We do this because we feel like we're in that kind of live situation. Maybe try changing mics, or you could just try anything, bro. Okay, well, anyway, we'll keep rolling with it for now. Maybe we'll keep the video, maybe we won't. We'll decide later. We'll have a second look at it. But anyway, so yeah, just a horrible, horrible echo is what we're dealing with. No, but everybody says it, so we're going to take their opinion. We'll take the opinion of 50 people over us, right? Okay, guys, so I'll just talk briefly, and then we'll keep it going. Yeah, everybody's complaining about it, so we'll see what we could do. Sorry about that, Julien. I guess we had a technical difficulty.
Yeah, that's weird.
So, okay, well, I'll talk a little bit, and then I'll keep Julien on it, and we'll work on the audio. He says some guys said better now. I don't know if that's now they're saying it's good. What did we change?
I muted myself, so it might be on my end. I don't know.
Oh, so you have to maybe mute yourself, Julien, but then you can't hear me? Is that the problem?
I hear you, but I think I have to mute myself every time I'm not talking.
You know what I just realized, bro? You know all those goofy-looking headphones that people wear on podcasts?
That's why, and now we know.
That's probably something to do with it.
Now we know.
The goofy headphones. Okay. But then if I talk, you won't be able to hear me. Is that what we're dealing with?
I would. That is so weird. You're right. That's literally why they have the headphones.
Maybe. Yeah.
I'll mute it for now.
But then you won't be able to hear me.
After. No, I hear you. I'll just mute myself.
Oh, okay. All right. I guess we can roll with that for now. So, guys, like we said, you're here for the first ever broadcast. So we're just learning about how to do this. And let us know. Exactly. Oh, and yeah, I am using huge speakers. I've got like gigantic speakers here, but I don't know if that's impacting anything. Yeah, let us know how you like this format. Like one thing Julien and I always try to do is like whatever the format it is that we're using, we try to maximize it. Like this is kind of like a random thing, a little bit off topic, but like say that we're doing a giant seminar, I will do crowd surfing just because I'm like, well, you couldn't do this on a Zoom, might as well do crowd surfing. If we're in a in an environment like me and Julien are about to go shoot some videos in tons of echoing again. So yeah, so if me and Julien are going to go shoot videos in say Venice Beach, we're going to go do interviews, right? Because we're in Venice Beach. So we always just try to find a what is good about this. Like for example, if we keep doing this, we could like maybe bring up little videos that we could play and we could react to them. And there's all sorts of different things that we could do. So, but we have this thing where it's called Ready, Fire, Aim. So the idea of Ready, Fire, Aim is just start. So even if you see us goofing this up, an interesting lesson there is like you can sit there preparing, or you could just go do it and learn on the job rather than endlessly pushing things off. We even did this. You guys might remember we did a live broadcast of Summit, and we did that just because we wanted you to experience the Summit live. In order to broadcast it live was so much more time and money and effort and technical difficulty to broadcast Summit live, but we did it, and we just kind of learned on the job, and that was sort of how we did. Pretty much everything. We just learn on the job. And that's really what you should do, right? As far as learning social skills, don't just watch social skills videos, go and learn. Best thing I think you could do is actually start socializing now if you're not there yet. And then again, high vibe communication, take the course. And then what you could do is you could backwards engineer what you're doing wrong as you're going out and socializing regularly. So that's another idea of fail forward. Julie, you might even want to talk a bit about that fail forward concept, just kind of timely. One of the most important things that we probably did in our whole career, like us just constantly failing forward, not analyzing every little thing.
Yeah, I mean, that was one thing that was hammered into me the very first time I actually worked on my social skills and said hi to someone. It took months, right, of me just like walking around way too shy, couldn't even ask anyone for the time. And I finally jumped in. And then I realized like there was nothing that could have prepared me 100% for that jump in. And that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to like memorize every line and trying to think of, okay, what are all the possible comebacks? And what if this person says this or that? What am I going to do? What am I going to say? And that's the approach most people take around life, right? It's like any kind of dream or goal you have. It's like, well, let me calculate first, right? Let me read the manual and study the manual. And once it's all there and I finally get it and I'm finally, quote unquote, ready, I'll jump in. And that's the worst approach. And fortunately, when it comes to social skills, that didn't just transfer into me, oh, let me jump in and start taking action. It also transferred in terms of life. You know, oh, let me move to LA. Oh, let me pursue my dreams. Oh, let me do this event. Oh, let me do that. It's like every single time I jumped in and I grew, it was always before I felt 100% ready. Huge, right? It's like jump in and figure it out after the fact. And that, funny enough, is also a lot of just social skills. It's like there's always an element of unknown. You jump in these different situations, these different interactions, and you just learn to roll with it. And by doing so, you really reach that point where, hey, you know what? I've taken action so many times. I've seen all the possible outcomes. Let's roll with it. I have that deep-rooted confidence, and this is actually the difference. Reading the manual and trying to perfect every little comeback is external-based confidence. Internal-based confidence is, you could throw anything at me, I know how to deal with it. It's like it's from you. It's like I can jump in, roll with the punches. So yeah, that's really a philosophy that's stuck with me. I know that you have it too. Since then, right? That was since 2006. I mean, even to this day, right? Different events, like you said, the live broadcasting, whether it's going out and trying different formats, different types of teaching, even shifting my teachings, right, since 2015 and going a lot more on the inner work. That was just like, hey, let's do it. Like, learn on the job, jump in. And unfortunately, far too many people wait. So if you're watching this, take it to heart, jump in, stop waiting, stop reading that manual. You can read it as many times as you want. It won't get you the entire way. And just think of, last thing I'll say on this is a video game, right? Say you buy a video game, you have like the controller and like all this stuff, like, okay, X is for jump and da-da-da, and you could read the manual as much as you want. You're not gonna be a perfect player until you eventually pick up the controller, get your elbows in the mud, and start figuring it out on the job. Video game, that's life.
I would even add to this. Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit more, even more abstract here, and even pull back more from like the, you know, the super high level view. I really believe that on like, okay, look, on one level, there's like a perfect way to learn things and to go about life. Okay, there's a perfect way to do everything. Okay, perfect. And in a perfect world, you would do the perfect way, okay? But then at a certain point, you've got to realize, and you should figure out what that perfect way is, and you should strive as much as you can without making excuses or taking shortcut to find the perfect way. That's one side of it. But the other side of it is, at a certain point, you've got to realize, like, you kind of are the way you are. And that doesn't mean to succumb to that or to use that as an excuse. Keep battling to do things the perfect way, to be perfect. Battle to be perfect. But while you're battling to be perfect, recognize that there's certain ways that you kind of are. And to some degree, you also want to work around that and to be realistic about how it is that you're going to kind of do things in life. So, you know, like, here would be a simple example. Like, let's say that I want to go shoot a video in the Grand Canyon. You know, we did some cool Grand Canyon video shoots here. You might have seen a video I did in Grand Canyon. The perfect way to do it would be for me to adjust my sleep schedule to be up very, very early prior to going to the Grand Canyon. Then it would be for me to know every single shooting location. And it would be for me to have every single thing written that I'm going to talk about, the exact times that I'm going to talk about it, the exact content that I'm going to do per shooting location, and then nail the video. And believe it or not, like, I really do try to be that perfect person. I really do. But what I found is like, I think Mike Tyson says this, like, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And at a certain point, you've got to realize, like for me, you know, I'm like, I'm going to go shoot at Grand Canyon someday. I'm going to go shoot at Grand Canyon someday. I'm going to go shoot at Grand Canyon someday. And it's like, for whatever reason, I just don't get up on time. I don't have the content prepared. And, you know, I've been attached to over 9 figures in sales in my life, so I'm not a scrub. You know, I'm someone who produces results, but I sometimes just struggle to do it the perfect way. So at a certain point, I've got to acknowledge to myself, like, Owen, you're kind of messing up in certain things. It sucks. You do have to try harder, but maybe you should just book the darn hotel at the Grand Canyon, just go there, and then just figure it out. And if you screw up, just figure it out. And so I went to the Grand Canyon, and on the first day, I was late to shoot. And I didn't really have my content prepared for the type of ambition of the video I wanted to do. And then I didn't do that well. And then guess what happened? because I was so frustrated at failing, the very next day I did get up on time. I spent that night writing the content, and I created a video that, and I did 2 of them. One I already put out that was sort of a quick shot video that was the kind of crummy one. And then I created a 2-hour classic video while I was out there that I think people are going to be watching in 5,000 years from now if humanity's still around. So I didn't do it the perfect way, but I still got the job done. And then, I'll go home and I'll think to myself what I could have done better and so on and so forth. Well, it's the exact same thing with social skills, okay? Like the perfect way to do it would be to know every perfect place to go and have every single comeback prepared and every single way you're going to do about it prepared. Like that is great. And honestly, if you can do that, and that's you, and you're just consistently able to produce that result, well then, hey, that's good for you. Like I'm jealous. I wish that was me. That's not me. The way that I personally did it was I just threw myself in the deep end. I'm like, you know what? If I just throw myself in the deep end, I just launched myself off, no plan, eventually I'm going to figure it out. And what I found was I would go home and I'd be angry at what I messed up. And that anger and frustration at what I goofed up would then propel my mind to see the value in getting a better plan and to understanding things better and to be more on time. Like a simple example would be in Los Angeles. Like if you're going to go to a high-end club, you probably want to go early unless you have access, like predetermined access to a table. And, I might go out there late. But then as I'm sitting out there late and I don't get in the club and I see all these incredible people that I want to meet going into the club and I'm super angry that I didn't get in, well, then that frustration at me failing is going to propel me to get out on time the next day. And it's the same thing, like, maybe I meet somebody really special and it's really amazing. And then, we run off to go to some after party together. But then I realized that I didn't have my game plan ready for a cool after party to invite them to. And then it turns out to be just kind of not very good. And it just sort of unravels and falls apart. Well, that's going to get it in my mind. You know what? I got to find out some better after parties. Or, maybe I'm trying to get better at talking. And then I meet somebody who I'm really excited to meet. But then my speaking skills are just not as good as I was hoping. Well, then that creates the frustration from that creates the urgency for me to do better. So it was the same thing like when we decided to do a live broadcast for the summit, we like, I know that for you at home, like when you see the live broadcast, the World Summit, to you, that's not a big deal. And you just think that somehow we are like these magical people that could just instantly, live broadcast, the World Summit. But there's actually a lot of work that went into that. There was piles of gear that we had to ship out to Miami, a ton of setup, a ton of preparation. And we've never done it before, like anybody could just record the video and post it. But it's another thing to live broadcast seminar quality and to do it live so people could have that experience live. It was just something we wanted to do. It's not like the be-all, end-all of life, but it was just something that we wanted to do for you so you could have a special experience to feel a part of it. We did that during lockdown because a lot of people wanted to come to Summit and they couldn't make it, so we wanted to do something live. And we did that, for the core people who wanted to feel part of it, and it cost us a lot of money and a lot of time, and there was a lot of hiccups. And guess what? The very first day of Summit, there was problems with the broadcast, but we still had a decent broadcast. That created the leverage and frustration to do better the next day. And then we did better the next day. And then by the final day, we knew how to broadcast live. It was the same thing that happened here. We've got all this gear. We're like, let's try going live today. And, we're sitting there preparing, but until you actually, try to do it and realize, oh, there's a echo problem. Okay, well, that's going to create the urgency to go look into that and figure out how to fix it. You can sit there trying to find the perfect thing for your whole life, or you could do what's called ready, fire, aim. Okay, write that in the comments. That's just to hammer it in your mind. Indulge me. I'm not even trying to patronize you. Take the time right now to write in the comments, ready, fire, aim. Okay, write that in the comments. Ready, fire, aim. Okay, and what that means is that it's only when you fail and you fail forward that you start to create the urgency to learn. It's what it informs the mind. This is important. And that's so when Julien has high vibe communication, the most updated social skills program he's done. It's been 7 years in the making. It didn't take him 7 years to make it, but it's been brewing and conceptualizing for 7 years now, keeping all the best from the original OG content, from the best trauma healing stuff, and then adding another 80, 90% of his most updated social skills content. Well, a program like this, you don't just sit there watching it and memorizing it and then using it. What you do is you begin the process of socializing, and then you get frustrated at the lack of results, then you watch this program, which is dense and structured and to the point, and it saves you time and energy. You'll watch this program right here, and then what winds up happening is that you see what you did wrong, and you'll understand what you did wrong on a deeper level because it is now relevant, okay? You might have heard the whole idea of the elephant and the rider analogy, right? We think of you think of yourself that your brain is just you, and you could just focus on what you want and be perfect, perfect, perfect. You're just a perfect little princess, right? You're not. You have this evolutionary brain that will only give you the mental capital to focus on that which is relevant. So going out and making mistakes and failing is what creates this urgent feeling of relevance. When I go out in Art Basel and I meet somebody who's a billionaire who is going to some of the best networking events, and when I say the best, by the way, Julian, I'm talking the best, okay? Like the best. And by the best, you could also argue the worst, because you might hate some of these people, because you might even blame some of the events in 2020 on these people. I mean, I'm talking the best of the best of the best. And I have access to these kind of circles, and I can try to exert my influence and say, stop doing these things you're doing. And I can also try to help them to come off of their demonic possession but I can't impact those people if I can't meet them. And so I've been fortunate to literally be sitting in this house, and some of these people you might even hate for some of the things in 2020 are sitting on my porch because I know how to befriend people like this. This is real life. And so I can influence them and say, hey, there's a lot of problems going on, and be a person in the arena rather than just being a spectator. And so those skills come from me going out, testing things, learning, and then coming home and dissecting what it is specifically that I did wrong and how I would improve upon that. So again, high vibe communication, Julien being a major mentor for me in social skills, and him being the person always ahead of the curve, this is him bringing back a lot of that, okay? And this is going to be coming on February 2nd, and it's going to be an incredible thing to grab on February 2nd. But if you want to get a discount on it now and a bunch of bonuses now, we're encouraging you to just pull the trigger and do something when you think about it. Go to High Vibe Communication right now. Grab that pre-sale now, and you will be happy that you did. This is the next level, and something that's been brewing his head for 7 years, preserving and updating on the OG ideas, giving the core net of the trauma-related ideas, in case you haven't been through that content yet, but then taking that foundation and probably about another 80% of the program, building on that, okay? Julien, are you going to do any bonuses where people can actually come up to the LA Hollywood Hills mansion and let people come and join you?
No, but even better, if you join right now, and again, link right here, High Vibe Communication, you get the pre-sale package, which includes a huge discount. And with that package, you also get 6 Zoom calls with me. It's 6 group Zoom calls where we get to practice what you learn. So you can actually practice it in front of me. I give you feedback. I tell you, okay, you need to work on this, your vibe, this, fix this, work on this, practice this for a bit. We'll talk on the next Zoom call. So you get this personalized expert feedback that, frankly, very few people can get. Because how many people in your life around you can you actually ask about when it comes to social skills? Not many, right? And even the people who tend to be a little good, they don't know how to teach it. So if you want my personal feedback, and again, this isn't feedback that I've given in 7 years, you want my personal feedback on your social skills, then jump on the pre-sale package. Okay, links here below. The bonuses, the discount, all that will expire, so take advantage. And one thing I want to add on here too to what you said is that element. Huh?
I'll do this. I want to throw in a bonus just right now while I think of it. I want to be spontaneous.
Go for it.
I'm going to invite everybody who grabs this, if they want to come, up to my crib.
Heard it here first.
Yeah, anybody who does it on the pre-sale, I'm going to invite up here. And now, not everybody in the world can come into the United States right now because of all the craziness. So if you can't, so I'm up here in a big mansion in Hollywood Hills. I literally have I sometimes do seminars up here. I've got a giant 300-inch movie screen. If you actually look in the top, you see, if you look in the top left of the screen, that's a very expensive movie screen, literally up there above. And then I have like that there is a very expensive movie projector, like something out of a movie theater. And then if you turn around the camera, there's a 300-inch movie screen up there, and you can't even, it's so big you can't even fit it in the screen. And we actually, the gate up at the top, we actually made it where it can lower down. and we will do a personalized seminar. Anybody who jumps on the pre-sale, we will do a yeah, that view there, it's a little bit foggy today because it's raining in LA, but that's a view of all of LA. This actually used to be Tiesto and Avicii's old mansion, and also the guy who runs EDC. So basically, they used to do the whole reason I moved in this mansion was actually because the landlord told me that that Tiesto and Avicii used to do the best parties here. So that was actually why I chose this space specifically. And so anybody who actually joins up on High Vibe Communication, I'm going to do a free, I literally just thought of this now. I just want to be smart. I'm going to ready, fire, aim myself. I'm going to do a free seminar. You're welcome to join, Julian, but otherwise I'm going to do it myself. Basically,
I'm there.
Free
I'm definitely
seminar
there.
up here. I'll bring you all up. I'll do private shuttles. I'll bring you up. And then for anybody who can't make it, we'll broadcast that on Zoom, and then you can watch it from home. And then we'll actually have the TV up here, and we'll be able to see you on the screen, and you can ask us questions. So anybody who joins up for that, I'd be happy to do it. If too many people join and we can't fit everybody here, then we'll do 2 weekends in a row, and we'll just go crazy with it. So, you know, but we need you to give real confirmation because I don't want to overbook it if it's the 2 weekends in a row. So yeah, it's yeah, I'll do that. I just like to be spontaneous, so I thought of that now. So basically, yeah, so if you jump on the pre-sale of it, you'll wind up getting Julian's 6 Zoom calls, what I heard.
6 Zoom calls and an extra live event.
Coming up in LA.
Yeah, I'll be there too. So yeah, if you want to come meet me and Owen in person, see the crib, see the view, High Vibe Communication, for real. And
I'd love to do that.
Trust me too, that point of the urgency is so crucial, because otherwise you will honestly wait your entire life. And I'll just share lastly here a story. It's kind of a sad story of a friend of mine. So this is a friend that I've known from the age of 12. Okay, age of 12 in Switzerland. And it's actually someone who I started playing music with. Okay, so I played guitar from the age of 8, met him when I was 12, and we started composing together. We even started, doing different shows and stuff. And this guy was so talented. Like, no joke, so talented, so creative. And he was doing music, and he was also doing writing. And his ultimate goal was, especially in recent years, to create this crazy book. Okay, it's a more fiction style, but like he was writing, and it was genius. And this, again, still a really good friend of mine, his biggest sticking point was he didn't have that sense of urgency. In his mind, it was like, I have forever to do this. And to this day, he still hasn't released the book. Every time I see him, it's like, oh, it's in the works. I'm adding a few more chapters to it. Oh, I'm tweaking a couple things. Oh, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And funny enough, he had that same pattern with music. Unfortunately, I was there in music, and I was always the one who's like, let's go, put it out. Let's do the show. Let's do this. And as soon as I moved away, I just saw him like go down the drain. And again, I tell this to his face. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Just going down the drain, because there's not that element of, again, urgency of like, hey, you got to get it done now. And actually, another story linked to what you were saying, I recorded this manifesto years and years ago, social skills manifesto. And I was waiting for that perfect day where I woke up and I felt super energized. And I was like, this is the day, I just feel it. It's all going to fall into place. And that day never came. And I realized after like a few weeks, I'm like, you know what? I'm just never going to feel that. Let's get it done. And then that manifesto went on to get close to 2 million views. Me, like, again, in my mind, like, I'm not fully ready to do it, but just that element of scarcity, of urgency, and even like positive pressure. And that's something we should probably talk about too, right? Like, not necessarily this live, but a future one. It's like people tend to avoid pressure, but you don't realize like you need a little bit of pressure for that genius to awaken in you and for that beauty to come out, you know?
Oh, I was going to say, and the first million views even being for the right reason, and then the second million views being because of certain media exposure. But that first million you did yourself.
The first million counts. That's what counts.
Yeah. Or first million something you did for yourself, right? So whatever it was, then that next million racked up quite rapidly. But anyway, so yep. Okay. So now let me also be very specific on this too. Is like part of, in my own life, I have different things that I've accomplished and different things that I'm ashamed of, right? Like I have wins and I have losses. So there's areas that I'm so proud of that I've accomplished and that we've accomplished as a group collectively. And then there's things that, that I wish I was better. Like it really is like a knife in my heart that I'm not better. And so every single day I dedicate time to fixing those weaknesses. Like I really do. You know, you could ask Julien any day. Like, I take feedback very well. I call Julien in a humble manner, asking for feedback. I take feedback from my team. I'm the first one to apologize easily. Like, I really do have a desire to be to strive for perfection. You know, I really do. I want to be perfect. But while I am waiting, you know, at age 42 for the magical day that a unicorn, you know, the real reason I'm going bald is that my brain is preparing for a unicorn horn to come out of my head. And I'm literally just going to prance around as this perfect human that everyone will cheer for. I also have to recognize my own tendencies. I have to be honest with myself about how I tend to operate. And me and Julien talk about this a lot. Like, for everything good about a person, it can also be a bad thing about a person. Like, you know, for example, for me, I don't feel the passage of time very well. Now, that's that is darn amazing. You know, when this really is live. That is really, really, really amazing when I'm teaching a 16-hour-a-day seminar and I'm completely, utterly present to every minute of that. I don't lose energy. I gain energy from doing seminar. I'm in this timeless vortex. It's amazing. But then at the same time, part of the consequence of being in a timeless vortex is it can make it more difficult to be aware of time. Another one for me could be I'm very, very creative, and I'm this sort of visionary type personality, but it also means that when I'm around friends, I can talk too much, I can ramble, the sort of weird daydreaming that I would do in my own mind and figuring things out. I can use other people as sounding boards, which is cool to be a part of it in a way, but it can also run on too long, and so on and so forth. So, so I can recognize the same thing that allows me to do a seminar for 16 hours a day with no preparation at all is the same thing that can make me difficult to be around. So every single thing about somebody, okay, everything about you that makes you good also has a downside, right? So if you're watching me or Julien at home, hopefully what you're seeing is a presentation, mostly at least 80, 90% of what would be the upside of what it is that we do well. What you don't deal with is the behind the scenes version of Julien or myself or our friends or our crew, where, those same things can be difficult. You know what I'm saying, right? And I could say this about myself or anybody who I'm friends with. So you want to, on one level, seek to be perfect, strive for perfection. Don't just adapt around it more and more and more and more, and then your whole life is adapting around flaws and reinforcing those flaws and lowering the bar. But also realize that on that journey to perfection, you still got to pay the bills. You still got to do the best you can. There's probably more things right about you that are wrong about you. So focus as well as where you're strong and doubling down on where you're strong. Now, again, why am I saying this? Why? Because I think what most people do with social skills or with life's ambitions or anything is they're always trying to make it perfect. They're trying to study. Where am I going to go? How's it going to play out? What am I going to do? How's it going to go? And you learn, and you're not doing. So that's what we're trying to say here is fail forward. Do, and then fail. That's okay. You're going to have areas that you fail. You're going to go out and you're going to embarrass yourself. You're going to go out and you're going to goof up. You're going to go out and you're going to feel ashamed. You're going to go out and you're going to feel frustration. You're going to go out and just be totally, utterly exasperated with your lack of results initially. Then what's going to happen is you're going to go, if you've been watching Julien and you resonate with what Julien teaches, who's my mentor, then again, go to www.highvibrationcommunication.com, go out and fail and get it to where all those failures are a highly relevant, urgent, real, pertinent part of your reality. And then all of a sudden, you're going to see this in a different way. You're going to, like, the same person who doesn't work on their social skills that would watch what Julien is saying would see it only at a surface level. They would see it in this very superficial, surface level way because they're not failing forward. But then what happens is when you go out and you try and you test and you fail, you're going to look at this and you're going to have light bulbs exploding and going, da, 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 and you're going to be like, why didn't I see this? And here's the best part. This is where it gets even crazier. Then, and you're going to see it like, how did I not see? Like, this is worth its weight in gold. Then you're going to go work on your social skills for another 6 months, and you're going to rewatch this, and then you're going to say, da-da, why didn't I see this? And you're going to see it at a deeper level. Then, da-da-da-da, guess where I'm going with this? you're going to go out in 10 years. And because Julian has been working on this for over 10 years, you're going to rewatch this and you're going to see it at a different level in a completely and utterly different way. And that is what you will find with veteran teachers who are teaching from total substance, total experience, total elbows in the mud, being a grizzled veteran, somebody who is not just putting something out for the sake of it, but is doing something that is legacy creating. This is a potent part of Julian's legacy and the most updated part of it. And so as a result, when you watch this, if you're going out regularly and doing social experiments and failing for it, you're not a perfect princess. I'm not a perfect princess. I'm not a unicorn. I have my elbows in the mud too. Watching this will make so much more sense when you are covered in mud. So grab this now, come up to my mansion, learn from me personally. If you can't make it to LA, we'll do that live on Zoom. You'll be chatting with us live on Zoom, the same television that I'm looking at here. I'll be looking at you in a group on Zoom, going through all the Q&A, or we'll be in person, whatever is best, whatever works for you. Get on Zoom with Julian for 6 calls that he's doing. When you see the price of this thing, you're gonna be like, all that for this is a joke. Okay, my niece makes this babysitting. Click the link, and then what's going to wind up happening is you're going to have that experience, and it's just going to make a lot of sense to you. Like this is going to be so resonant, but this is for action takers only. Action takers only. Results-oriented people only. Not keyboard jockeys, not armchair philosophers, not people who have a comment and an opinion but aren't really going out. I want to see you covered in mud like a pig up in here, and then let us pull out the hose and cleanse you of the mud. Okay? And then you will go and you will roll around in the mud again like a piggy, and then Julie and I will bring out the cleansing hose, that cleansing fire of your sins, and we will cleanse you and take you to the promised land. We will take you by the hand and walk you past the smoking wreckage of people who failed at this, directly from point A to point B, right to the promised land. But again, www.highvibecommunication.com. Go there now, and what you'll find is that if you jump on that, we will immediately begin teaching you, and we will go from point A to point B as quickly as possible. But again, action takers only. That's who we're looking for. I don't want a room full of people here or people on Zoom that are just like keyboard jockeys, like, well, yeah, man. No, 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 no. Okay? This is a clique. You want to be cool in this clique? You fail forward. You're not a pretty princess. You're not a freaking unicorn. You're a human covered in mud. In fact, a piggy. You are a piggy covered in mud. And we will bring out the hose and the cleansing fire, showing you in a highly relevant state exactly where you went wrong and the old paradigms that you're operating from, and showing you the paradigms that Julian is coming from today. Take action. I gotta take action. No, but for real, take action.
I have one more thing to add, by the way.
HighVibeCommunication.com.
One more thing to add, but do let me know. Do you hear me? No, it didn't cut out. Now you do. Okay.
Yep.
Last thing I'll say too is if you're someone who's hearing this, you're like, oh, it sounds so good, right? I want to be the piggy in mud, like shower it off, Julian, shower it off. But you're a little scared. You have trouble taking action, and that's your number one sticking point. Well, there's a few things here in place to really help you with that. Okay. Number one, there is a module in this that covers letting go specifically when it comes to social skills. Okay. Transformation Mastery, for example, covers all of letting go. This dives into social skills. There's releases around social anxiety, social neediness, so on and so forth. So it will help you on the inner side. There's the 6 Zoom calls where, hey, you can jump on those calls. You'll get missions, exercise. You'll be held accountable and supported so that you do take action. And lastly, there's also a Telegram group. Okay, if you join now, pre-sale package, there's a VIP Telegram group that I'm in, that every other action taker is in, and that there 24/7 access where you can get motivation, you can get feedback, you'll get exclusive content. I mean, you really are equipped. Okay, and with the pre-sale packaging, the price point, this won't last long, by the way. Okay, just a heads up, especially the huge discount. You only have a few days left for that. So high vibe communication, if this speaks to you, you're like, you know what? It's time to take my social skills to a whole other level. If you resonate with authenticity, if you resonate with making situations win-win, if you resonate with seeing the matrix of socializing and all the dynamics, not just when it comes to relationships, but in all aspects of life, and you want guidance, support, accountability, then click the link. And this isn't some watered down academic ideas. This comes from the field. This comes from the real world. Okay, both Owen and myself, we're going out in the real world. Okay, for myself, since 2006, I've been going out almost every single day talking to people, talking to strangers, socializing, connecting different patterns, seeing the beneath the surface, then also teaching it since 2010, for over 10 years. I see what sticks in the short term. I see what sticks in the long term. I see once you fix one problem, then this new problem arises. You fix that one, this new problem, until you finally get to the cause. And this is really the culmination of all of that. The best of the old school teachings meets letting go, inner work when it comes to social skills, and then all of the new, most cutting edge epiphanies and principles that are honestly going to change your life. Especially nowadays, last thing with the way the world's going, social skills, right? Having that social intelligence is getting more and more scarce. You get this, you will have such an unfair advantage on your neighbor, on anyone you know.
Make that the top. I'd like to make that the topic of the next video that we do, actually, because we're gonna do some more on these. I think that'd be a great topic. Just talk. I mean, I'm gonna be on the Tim Pool show actually on December 30th, and that'll probably be one of the things that I mean, at least that's the current game plan. We'll see if we stick with it, but that's what we're tentatively planning. And I think that'll be one of the things I'm gonna want to talk to Tim about is just this idea that, you know, social skills is just getting more and more eroded. People are getting more and more isolated. We have the metaverse coming up, and it's just going to get crazier and crazier and crazier. That's the funny thing is, like, it. Honestly, I'm going to bring it back in a serious manner. In a serious manner, I want to bring back that pretty princess versus muddy piggy analogy, right? Are you going to be the pretty princess or the muddy piggy? And I mean that, right? Like, in the world of the metaverse that's going to be coming, and my prediction on the metaverse is that it's going to be a lot like the internet was predicted to be in the 2000s, where at first everyone's like, retail is dead, like this, like year 2000, retail is dead, it's all going to be internet, and then everybody predicted that, but it didn't happen initially, right? They were like, no, you know, this whole idea of internet shopping, like, we thought it would be big, but it turns out that everyone just still kind of wants to go to the mall. It's not that big. But then slowly but surely, Amazon just takes over. And I think the metaverse will be very much like that. And it's going to allow and enable people not to have social skills. And it's I'll go a little bit deeper on this. Like, let me just get even a little bit crazier on this. Like, unfortunately, like, I am definitely pro-capitalist, but you know, capitalism all the way, because I'm pro-freedom. I have freedom on my hat here with an eagle. That should tell you how strongly I feel about this. But the challenge that we're going to see, like, and this is one of the like, I love capitalism, but it also has problems. Like, you can love something but still admit it has problems. And one of the problems with capitalism is, like, as a marketer, it forces you to really look at what clients will actually reward with money. You follow what I'm saying, right? Like, it's like, what will clients actually reward with money? And so, you know, you might have had somebody like, growing oranges, and then, you know, having this really beautiful process to make orange juice. But then later they realize, why don't we just get, you know, high fructose corn syrup, put a chemical of orange in it with a carbonated drink, and we can make Orange Crush, and we can make more money off Orange Crush. And so what happens is that it kind of hits people at the lowest common denominator, where, you know, basically what capitalism does, which again, total pro-capitalism, total pro-freedom. I just wish that people would have better education on how it's impacting them. My view is that we should mitigate this with education, not with government legislation. Like, well, you're not allowed to drink an Orange Crush, and then we're going to tell you what else you're not allowed to do, and you can't leave. I won't go there, but anyway, I'm not going to go there. But, you know, but the point being is, like, I just think we should solve it with education. But I think, you know, the problem is, like as an example, I'm about to go skiing in Aspen, right? That costs thousands of dollars. That takes driving. We're actually going to drive there. That takes preparation, accommodation, physical fitness, which I'm not super fit, but physical fit enough to ski. There's danger. I recently saw Liam Neeson in Los Angeles. His wife died skiing, right? It can kill you. Super sad, you know, this poor guy. You know, like, there's risk to your life. There's organization. I'm going to teach my children how to ski. That's going to be a whole process. They're probably going to cry and whine and say they hate it, and then they, right? It's going to be a process. Before they love it, they're going to hate it. And so as a result of that, something like the metaverse, when it eventually does take over, it's going to say to yourself, do you really want to spend thousands of dollars, time, energy, driving, transport, risking your life, risking getting hurt, being tired, et cetera, to ski? Or do you just want to turn on the metaverse and have all the exact same fun of skiing? And the challenge is this is also going to be in personal relationships. Like, one of the major things that makes you grow as a human being is personal relationships. And when you're in a relationship, you're going to have trauma, and the other person's going to have trauma, and that's going to rise up and all that kind of stuff, and you're going to have arguments, and to get it, like, for me to get a relationship, like, I will literally go out to bars and clubs. I'll meet thousands of people. I'll bring like hundreds of people up to my house. It costs thousands of dollars to put on those parties because there's like damage to the house and damage to everything, and it's like, literally, there's so much work that goes into that. And then once I'm in a relationship that I have to deal with all the ups and downs of that, well, why do that when you could just go in the metaverse and you could have a virtual reality of, a relationship and all the intimacy and physical intimacy and all that within 2 seconds, probably with someone who's even more attractive than you'd actually meet in real life, because the metaverse will make it perfect. So, and you don't even have to, it doesn't even have to be, the same person. It's just changing. And that's what capitalism is going to do. It's going to literally bring it to the point where the lowest common denominator will occur, and you're never in any way, shape, or form going to have to grow. And this is the problem that we're seeing. And that is why, Julian, what you're teaching as far as social skills is so relevant, because if you have these kinds of skills right here, highvibecommunication.com, when you have skills like this, you're going to be that person who's able to do it in real life. And if you think that now, just with some silly little device like this, that people are getting addicted on that, and they're just getting hooked on this, if you think that that's, getting crazy, imagine what's going to be happening when the metaverse takes over and people can now just get instant results in a fictional universe. Now, by the way, like most things, the metaverse won't be all bad. I think it'll create the opportunity to make sales for artists. I think there could be some very beautiful, like, I'd love to use the metaverse to create some beautiful projects in AI, make it so, like, I mean, there's so many beautiful things that we can do with those mediums that are artistic, that are creative, that are beautiful. But the question is, are you going to make that a drug addiction where you can't come out of it? Or is it just like another cool way to connect and to communicate? And so, and that's where we're going. One of the reasons why, I wear a cross is because the idea of the crucifixion is the idea that our second birth or our awakening comes through pain. It comes through torment and through pain, and allows us to disconnect from those initial, like, physical pleasures and connect to our core essence and to our higher power. And then that does happen in the process of pain. And that's what I'm saying is, do you want to be the muddy piggy, or do you want to be the pretty princess? In the metaverse, you're going to be the pretty princess all day. It's going to be the whole pretty princess reality. And the real world is grubby, it's dirty, it's dangerous, it's effort-filled, it's painful. But the result of it is that it helps you to disconnect from the ego or the intellect only, and have it as a guiding light, but not as your identification. It gets you to get out of the physical intelligence, and that, I mean, the body's intelligence, if we're being honest, is basically sociopathic. You look at a grizzly bear, beautiful animals. I've been around them this year in person, but like they do horrifying things, like the most disgusting. I mean, these bears will literally, like a male bear will see a female bear that's impregnated by another male bear, and they'll go and start jumping on its stomach to do a forced abortion, and then go do these horrifying things, like then get their kid from the bear. It's disgusting. And that's because that bear, it's a beautiful animal, and the bear has no excuse, it's not a human, or the bear has an excuse, not a human. But that's the physical intelligence, right? Like, when people go into pure physical intelligence of the body, that's where the sociopathy of, like, the Richard Dawkins selfish gene comes in, and it just it does crazy things. When people go just in the ego, that's what creates that maniacal ego intelligence, and that's not healthy. When we connect to our core essence and to our higher power, that's where empathy comes in, the win-win comes in, the spreading value comes in, the cup runneth over and wants to be, in the creative, that creative genesis comes in from that connection to your core essence. And that's what you want to be feeding. Well, guess what? Embarrassment, humiliation, pain, boredom, something like a meditation connects you to your core essence, because you're not getting what you want in the physical. You're not getting any food for the ego. You're getting food for the soul. And so that, again, learning things like high vibe communication, something that gets you out of just the physical, something that gets you just out of your ego, but learning to connect at that essence level where deep, deep, abiding fulfillment and presence and release of trauma and connection to beauty, you connect to that. And when you come from that space, all of a sudden, that is when the cup runneth over. That is the true beauty of life. That is the true joy of life. But as the metaverse comes in and just gives us exactly what we want, those skills will become eroded. The same way that, a hunter in Africa who's so beautiful and can go out and use their natural physical skills, and that would get eroded if they move into a city. Well, our connection to our higher self will get eroded as the metaverse and things like that come into play. And so this is where you want to be building these skills now before you become some plugged in junkie who basically is living in what at its core is essentially Satanism, which is total obscuring of that connection to your higher self, because you're not having pain, you're just getting more and more of what you want. And there will be beautiful art that will come from this and beautiful things that will come from it and beautiful experiences. People who are poor can see what the world looks like and use their imagination, and there'll be new forms of commerce from it, a lot of good things. But there's also going to be a lot of dependencies that are created. I mean, if you think human beings have fallen apart from like our glorious days when we were wild and free compared to now, well, the next level of capitalism is gonna take us further and further from that. So, I'll be on Tim Pool December 30th, most likely. I'm talking to Tim about it, and I think honestly that'll be a big thing I want to bring up with him. We'll see if he wants to go there or not. It's up to him. But also talking to you now. You don't need to wait for me to jump on Tim Pool right now today. What you need to be doing, get on this high vibe communication and learn not just to be in your ego, not just to be in the physical intelligence, but to connect your core essence, coming from a place of a powerful foundation, of being connected to that core essence. And then what I want you to do is connect to that and learn how to connect with other people. I'm telling you, this is going to be so incredible when you do this. And that's what Julien is trying to teach you. And we're some of the last of the Mohicans here trying to really teach you this at a core level. And this will be something you teach your children, something you teach everybody. Get on this now. And Julien, I'm sure you'd have a lot of your own opinions about this as well.
Yeah. I mean, just in terms of the whole, was it Pretty Princess and the Muddy Piggy? That's what also trying to have everything perfect before jumping in is. You're trying to avoid that quote unquote pain. You're trying to avoid the discomfort. You're trying to avoid that pressure, that like just the mud. And you can't. Like, the mud is part of the growth. You want to grow, you have to jump into the mud, wash it off. You can't just walk around it. And one thing that I wanted to add when you were talking about the metaverse is that, yes, right, social skills are getting eroded. Now, funny enough, though, high vibe is going to teach you how to socialize in the real world, but also how to have an upper hand in the metaverse. Because even metaverse-wise, nowadays, you jump on, say, a Zoom call, you jump on a Skype call, you're on an interview, you're talking to someone, you're in the metaverse talking to someone. Most people, their skills are still terrible. However, the scarier thought, though, is that you'll have your one-up now, but as society lives more and more in the metaverse, social skills will erode more and more and more, to the point where, who knows, this could be a crazy idea, but to the point where people will now prefer socializing with AIs versus other people. like it's like that movie, was it Her, with Joaquin Phoenix, right? Like, everyone has their own AI and they're in love with the AI because they have zero ability to even connect with others. They just need this virtual mirror to just reflect back to them that everything they say and everything they think is good. And everyone will be living in these little pods with their little AI partner. I mean, what a scary idea. But yeah, the metaverse is one of those things, just like social media, right? It's like, use it, don't get used by it. High vibe communication is one of those things that teaches you about the subtleties, so you do have access to the real world. So you actually have the choice, like, you know what? I'll dip my toes in the metaverse for this, but I'm not dependent on it. I'm not running away from the real world. That's really the audit to make here. And ultimately, social skills, like humans, we are creatures of relationships, right? Like everything in our life is a relationship. The relationship we have to our friends, our family, our partner, to work, to everything. It's all relationships. We are social creatures. We crave that connection. There's that study now where it's like we're more, you could say that there's that virtual connection, but everyone feels much more lonely, and that's just going to amplify. And for that, yes, you need a lot of inner work. And that is also in high vibe communication. But you also need that ability to, hey, you know what? I'm going to be human for a little bit. I'm going to unplug from all this. I'm going to go out in the real world and be human, right? Even if you take I was talking to my trainer about this, and he was like, you know how I describe my job? And he'll do a lot of virtual trainings too. He's amazing. He's like, you know how I describe my job? It's people pay me for 1 hour where I remind them what it's like to be human. Because what he's telling you to do is what your ancestors would just naturally do, right? It's like, hey, move your body a little bit instead of just always staying still, like in your chair position or on your phone. It's like, hey, move your body how it's supposed to move. And I think that'll also start shifting where people will start paying more and more to just have human-like experiences because we're getting way more and more sucked in here. So if you want the peak of the peak human-like experience, if you really want to reconnect with what it's like to be human at a core, high vibe. Get on.
Yeah, it's that. And it's funny that we're thinking of this now because Julien, I'm a very, very good futurist. Like my ability to predict things in the future is pretty psycho. But you're also a very good futurist. And I think you were actually the person who pointed this out to me. You know, I remember you kept saying to me that the social skills are getting worse and worse and worse. And I didn't initially notice that. And I remember you kept mentioning that people are getting more and more disconnected. And I honestly thought that you were exaggerating that at the time. I'm like, nah, it's not that bad because you're someone who just doesn't like, you know, being around weird energy sometimes. So I thought you're maybe particularly sensitive to it. But no, I'm seeing it now. And it's, there is definitely an element to which people are getting more and more separated. So we're more and more together, but also more and more separated. And it is just a weird world. And I have a feeling that some of the more mainstream or popular conversations that we'll probably be in the next 10 years, you probably predicted that. I think that'll definitely be something that'll be coming up a lot. And what it means to return to some of those core foundations. And that'll be incredibly, incredibly important. So I think it's interesting because today we had... we did a lot about taking action, a lot about failing forward, and then we did this topic as far as what does it mean to socialize in a landscape that is separating people more and more and eroding social skills more and more. So that's kind of some things that we touched on here. I mean, I can go forever, but Julian, I remember you have some things to do today. So if you want, we could kind of begin to wrap it there. And I think Julian and I, what we'll do is we're going to try to do some more of these. I'm actually headed to Aspen to go ski later today. So I'll probably do some of these from my laptop while in Aspen. And then I'll be back here in a couple days and then we'll do, we'll continue. And I'm hoping that the audio on this is not so horrendous at the start that we can still post it, or maybe you could trim it down or something like that if it's necessary. But, you know, we're kind of in our own learning curve here. This is the first time Julian and I have ever done the Zoom split screen on YouTube Live. So you have popped our cherry with us.
We did it.
We want to thank you for that. We have learned today to be a pretty piggy, not a pretty princess, or a muddy piggy, not a pretty princess. And we have...
and do take it, just one more lesson on this too. Just wait, one big one here for everyone watching. It's like, if you got value just from this live, right? Minus the echoes or the issues, just by us jumping in. And again, like, we don't just talk it. Like, this is us walking the talk. It's like, hey, we were doing it, right? We say, hey, jump in before, we're doing it now. If you got value from this, then what does that tell you? It's like, whoa, thank God they actually jumped in. Every time you, right, the viewer, you hold back, you're like, oh, let me wait a little bit, wait a little bit more. You're robbing other people from the value that is you, from connecting with you. So remember this example, right? Oh, we could wait and make it all perfect or jump in. If it's still a win, it's your responsibility to jump in. If other people meeting you, connecting with you is still a win, it's your responsibility to jump in now and not keep putting it off, waiting for everything to be perfect.
And guys, heads up, www.highvibecommunication.com. If you grab it now during the pre-sale, what that means that Julian is going to be doing a 6-call Zoom series. And I just decided to be spontaneous and invited you to my mansion here in the Hollywood Hills. And if you can't make it, we're going to be broadcasting that seminar on Zoom, and your face will be up on the TV that I have here in my room, and I will jump on and answer your questions live as well. I want to do that just to be spontaneous, celebrate something special that Julian is doing. This is something that has been brewing for 7 years. You know, a lot of people just kind of put stuff out to put it out almost like on a schedule. We tend to put things out when it's ready. We let it brew. We don't prematurely pop it out. We really, really let it come together and do things that are
marketers
truly
hate it, by the way.
Put together here.
Yeah.
It's
Marketers hate it. They're like, do this product, a new product every month of all these themes. It's like, for us, it's really a work of art. Like, this is, again, I talked about music before. Like, this is my new album. This is my baby. My heart and soul's in it. It's not something you can rush. It's something that took time, and here it is.
The result speaks for itself. And you know, you know what's funny too, Julie, is I think by doing this, some people would say it's bad for business. And I don't know if that, like, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, who knows. But I feel like what it's done is it's created a group of people who love what we do and can see that we have their interest in mind. And so as a result of that, we've had people with us for a long time. And that's really, really, really big secret to our success is community. And I think that we've been able to build this incredible community of people largely because we don't rush things. And our goal is true value. You know, I've been.
That's a good point. By the way, if you're watching this, do comment in the chat. How long have you been following us? Comment in the chat. Comment below if you're watching the replay. That's actually a great point. I'd love to know. Let us know. Hey, how long have you been following us? How did you discover us? What's your story? What's your journey with us?
Yeah, we'll let it ride just for one more second. A lot of people who I work with have been, you know, following us for 20 years. And the cool thing about it is they're not following us for 20 years waiting for the result. They're getting the result and then want to get the better result. And then they're getting a better result and then they want a better result. Then there's people who have been on our programs that have results that are so obnoxious, because there's this thing in self-help where people are like, well, what? I guess they need it. Like, it's a stupid thing that I see in self-help. They're like, they must just need it, right? Like, you know, like for example, you and I continue to attend seminars in every major area that we want to do better, and yet have had more results than we probably had more results business-wise than 99% of people on all of YouTube. There's probably a couple people ahead of us, but very, very little. Remember that we're not just a YouTube-based community. We have a real community outside of YouTube, right? Whatever you see happening on YouTube is the tip of this massive, massive iceberg of 20 years of us having a community, right? We have a 20-year-old community. So it's one of those things where we have those results, and yet we continue to attend educational trainings on areas where we continue to do better. I still seek out mentors. I have mentors. I take courses. But for some reason, people think it's like this weird badge of shame to get help with something. It's this really, really weird kind of lowbrow scarcity, sort of like unthinking masses thing where it's like, oh, if you get help with something, it means that you suck at it. No, 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 no. Michael Jordan had 11 coaches. Why is that? You know, Timothy S. Grover being one of them. I mean, just read the book Relentless by Timothy S. Grover. Imagine having that as your personal coach. What kind of results you're going to get? Well, in social skills, imagine having me or Julian as your personal coach and what kind of results you're going to get. And this is probably the best opportunity to do that. This has been around in a minute, and it's exciting, and it's new. And if you've seen everything else we've done, this is going to be the next level and next evolution of that. Most cutting edge, most new, most fresh, most interesting. Bang! www.highvibecommunication.com. Looking forward to seeing you on the Zoom calls. Looking forward to seeing you at my crib. Looking forward to seeing you as a Zoom participant in the seminar at my crib. You can't make it here. And looking forward to doing some more broadcasts coming up. Go grab that pre-sale now, today, now. You'll be happy you did. Happy to see the comments you're going to make about it. Let us know, and let us know next on the next live what you're already beginning to learn. Love you very much. Great to pop our live split screen cherry here, Julian.
Yes. Thank you, everyone. See you on the inside.
See you inside.